All right, we welcome everybody into another edition of the Stingers Up Sacramento State Football Podcast. Hopefully you enjoyed the bye week last week for the Hornets. I hope they did too, because finally they're going to be at home this weekend, Saturday night, against Eastern Washington. And go figure, back-to-back home games for the Hornets. Just for some perspective, this will be home game number 2 this week for the Hornets. Montana's going to be playing their 5th home game already this season. So with the bye week off last week, Hornets had some rest time, some practice time, hopefully some recouping time as well. And if you were like me, maybe you watched a lot of the other Big Sky games last weekend. I don't know if rooting for, but maybe so. Some carnage amongst the league, and it kind of happened. It could have been worse, but if you look at what happened across the league last week in the Big Sky, you did have a bit of a surprise, I would say, at home. Montana losing in overtime to Weber State. And the Northern Arizona-Idaho game, it's kind of a pick your poison there. I mean, you could make some benefits if NAU won. That would help the Hornets because NAU obviously has already defeated the Hornets, but not playing Idaho. What would be better off? It was a good game. Idaho got that one 23-17, and then what would have been the biggest stunner of the weekend was UC Davis taking on winless Portland State, and the Aggies were in trouble, but they found a way to get the win at the end, hanging on to win by a point. So some things happened last week. Of course, today and this week on this podcast, we'll look ahead to what's coming up for the Hornets, a game against Eastern Washington on Saturday. We'll preview that at the end. We got a lot to get to today, a lot of different things on the podcast, including a conversation coming up with senior Nickleback Gavin Davis Smith, a part of that defense, one of the guys returning to this team that had the most experience on the defensive side. So we'll catch up with him in just a few moments. And kind of the theme is also what's going on this weekend at Sacramento State. The Hornets are really good in the community. You'll hear that a little bit with Gavin Davis Smith, but it's going to be Cancer Awareness Night, Healthcare Appreciation Night, and we're going to tell you a little bit about what the Hornets have been involved with as far as the Get in the Game program, how they're involved with the National Marrow Donor Program, what it's meant to the Hornets, what it's meant to me. I'm going to share my story, and certainly kind of a where are they now, a name you know, Troy Steifel, and how impactful it's been for him and his role in this as well. So we'll tie that all together coming up today on the podcast and, of course, preview the game with Eastern Washington. But let's start out with my conversation with senior Nickleback Gavin Davis Smith. Here we are with Gavin Davis Smith, one of the seniors of the defensive group for Sacramento State. And Gavin, first I guess I'll start with the bye week. Probably nice to have a little bit of time off. What was the bye week like for you?
The bye week was good. I think it came at good timing given we were on the road to start most of the beginning of the season. So it's nice getting back home, and now we get a bye week to rest and recover and, you know, fix some things that we need to clean up. And on top of that, we get the bye week and then we get 2 games at home, which will be nice.
Yeah, finally at home. I mean, you can't control the schedule, but how weird has that schedule been for you guys?
Yeah, it's been different. I've been here going on my 5th year, and we've never started on the road that many games, so it's definitely it's different. It's a weird feeling, but we're happy to be home the following week, so yeah.
So let's start with how you got here. Obviously, you played at Folsom, winning and playing great there and winning a state title and all that, but what made you want to become a Hornet? Who was the coach that kind of lured you here?
Yeah, so obviously grew up in Folsom. As far as the coach that got me here, it was a collection of coaches that came from Folsom. So their first year coming to Sac State was obviously my first year too, but a big part was Coach Richardson and Coach Cole as well. He was my safety coach at Folsom, and then he came here at Sac State in 2019. So yeah, that was big. And then also on top of that, my cousin played football here a few years back, not more than a few years back. He was here around 2016, and then my mom is alumni as well, so family's from around here, so yeah.
So when you're at Folsom and you were with those guys and you guys were winning there, did you envision that? Because the Hornets weren't winning like that before you guys all that came from Folsom and that group that came here. Did you envision that this is something that could actually happen here?
I did envision it. It was weird, too, just finishing up our senior season when we knew that Sac State was getting rid of their coach, and we kind of thought about what if our coaches went there, and it actually ended up happening, and we knew they had the connection to get the job done once they came to Sac State. So it was crazy thinking it would happen, then seeing it happen, and now 5 years later watching it happen. It's all cool to see.
So in this run that you've been on while you've been here, along with your teammates past and present, what's your own personal highlights that you'll think of, man, I'm going to remember this game, this moment, this play, I don't know, years down the line? What are some of the things that stick out to you?
Some of the things that stick out, I mean, there's a few games from probably multiple seasons I've been here. First off was 2019. I didn't play a lot, but I actually traveled as a redshirt freshman to NAU. We actually won that game, kicked a late onside. That was a crazy game on the road. And then 2022, fast forward, overtime game in Montana, home game, crazy crowd. And then you had the Davis game a couple years back, sold out crowd. Never had that much in attendance at Sacramento State, so that's pretty cool. And then just trying to build more memorable games for my senior year this year.
Yeah, this year still all the goals that you guys have are still possible. It's a little bit of a slow start, and the NAU game felt like a little bit of an outlier. That hadn't really happened to you guys. The offense just quite didn't have it. So what do you think the bye week and the back half of the schedule, what are some of the things you guys still think you can accomplish?
Yeah, a big thing is bye week is obviously came at good timing. Like you said, we haven't really experienced that early on with the early season loss, especially like that. So with the bye week line early in the season, beginning a conference after our first loss, I think that's big for our team, just to kind of get back on track and then, focus on the details. We get an extra week to do that. So I think this will help us recharge, especially back home for 2 weeks after the bye week. So we're just looking to clean things up and get rolling at home once we get into conference.
I know you can't control this either, but injuries have happened, whether it was in camp, during the season. It feels like, as someone that's followed your program for so long, this has been as injured as you guys have been. Now it's next man up, the next guy goes in. But how does it feel about all these injuries that have kind of accumulated this year?
Yeah, like you said, next man up mentality, but it is also crazy just given the injuries that have hit us, especially early on in the season. It's crazy. I don't know what's happening, but that's why we have depth. That's why we recruit so many good players, and next man up as it is.
Yeah. All right, for you, what do you envision at the end of this year? Would you like to stay in football, more football? Like, what's your plan after your senior season ends?
Yeah, so after my senior season ends, I fully plan on training 3 months after up until the pro day in March, and I want to attack that and give myself the best chance to play at the next level. Yeah.
That's awesome. So now for your position, technically a nickelback, but you're everywhere. I mean, they've put you at the line of scrimmage and like a linebacker role, a safety, a corner. Like, define your position. What makes a good, I guess by definition, nickelback?
Yeah, nickelback is definitely a unique position, very versatile position. I've embraced playing nickelback ever since. Like you said, you do a lot of corner stuff, a lot of nickel stuff, linebacker stuff, playing around the line of scrimmage, always near the ball. It's a very active position. And I've also had Marte Mapu to look up to, so he's been a big influence for me. I also got to train with him in the offseason leading up to this senior year, so I look to him for a lot of stuff and a lot of tips when it comes to playing the position at a very high level.
I know you guys have a lot of defensive coaches, but by definition, Coach Thompson also coaches you guys, the nickelbacks. I know, to have the head coach kind of be one of the guys that you're leading. How was your relationship with the head coach and technically your nickelbacks coach?
It's very good. We obviously came in at the same time, too. When he started at Sac State, I started at Sac State in 2019. So, him taking over and kind of like honing in on the nickels as a position group has been great. Obviously, it's his defense. He's very understanding of the defense. So, if I ever have a question or anything, it's always go to him. And then our relationship has just gotten stronger over the time that I've been here. So, yeah.
What do you think, Gavin, has been the difference on the improvement defensively? I think after the first 2 weeks, now granted, you played San Jose and Fresno, but it feels like that side, you guys have been a little more consistent, really kind of rounding into form. What have you seen from your defense?
Yeah, we did kind of come into our own, especially after those first 2 weeks, and I feel like that was big for us. Obviously, great opponents, but as we play more ball, get more snaps as a defense, we're slowly starting to get it down. And on top of that, I think we're just starting to mesh well because we are a young defense and we do got some new players. So like everything, I think good things take time, and we're coming into our own, coming here, starting conference.
I know you guys have done a lot of different things, you specifically too, amongst the community with whether it's playmakers, this leadership group you guys did in the offseason. Why has that stuff kind of been so important to you?
Yeah, that's important to me big time because, the people I've looked up to have gave back to the community, helping out certain organizations that I'm now helping out with now. And on top of that, just coming from this city, being born and raised around here in Sacramento, it's good to get back to where I grew up.
Yeah, that's awesome that you're doing that. And I feel like, do you feel like you'll no matter where your future goes, have this connection with Sacramento forever?
Yeah, definitely. I'll definitely hold this connection with Sacramento forever, as well as the people and organizations I'm still working with. I hope to hold those bonds and connections as well when I'm finished here.
That's awesome. And then how about, teammates that's, in college, it's such a great time, but some of these guys will be lifelong friends, whether they're at, celebrations, birthdays, weddings, those kind of things. Who are some of the guys that you felt like you've got the longest and tightest connection with from this team?
Yeah, from this team in past years, I came in 2019. An older guy who took me under his wing was Abel Ordaz, so he's been big for me. Was just hanging out with him recently this past weekend. I built a lot of connections. Marte, I'm still in touch with him. Malik Jeter, guys like that, and then obviously a bunch of Folsom guys have came through. So it's been nice to play all the way from little kids, Pop Warner, to through now. So we'll always have that connection as well with my Folsom guys.
Have you felt like you've done that now that you're one of the older guys and been around and experienced it, or do you feel like you're doing that with the younger guys?
Yeah, I am for sure. It's definitely nice. It's nice to give back the way the older guys in the defensive back room gave back to me, and now I do take a lot of those younger defensive backs under my wing, and I hope to hold those relationships and see them do their thing once I leave here too.
All right, lastly then, there's still a bulk of the season left, still a lot of things, like I said earlier, you guys can reach those goals. What do you kind of want to see from you, from your team, as you progress through this your senior season?
I think the biggest part is understanding there's a lot of football to be played that's left to play. With that being said, I just say we got to, stay focused on the main thing, which is one game at a time. We can't look too far ahead. And, we're going to focus on 1 week. And we got 2 weeks to focus on EWU, which is nice. So this will be the biggest game of the season coming up next. So we'll go from there, yeah.
And then one last thing, not that this is in your control either, but there's talk about facilities upgrade, potential conference realignment down the way. What do you think about the future of where Sacramento State football could go if, there will be a new stadium, but whether or not conferences move? Just what are your thoughts on where you see this program in a few years?
From where it first was to the talks of conference realignment and obviously the new stadium actually being approved, but as far as conference realignment, I think that's huge. I think that'll be something that's really fun to see, especially leaving from, playing here for 5 years and it being a big sky school, and before I came, not even it being a winning program. So it's cool to see how much we've progressed in such a little amount of time. So I'm looking forward to seeing a conference realignment as well. I hope that does happen.
Well, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure watching you play. Best of luck. Stay healthy the rest of the way, and good luck to you and the Hornets.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
All right, you heard it there with Gavin, too, obviously talking about the team, talking about injuries, but also it's been important to him and important to this program to give back to the community. And I think, in this day and age where we've got people with differing views, differing thoughts, you hear a lot of negative things that are out there, pulling people in different directions. I think the one thing we can all pull together, hopefully, is to root for one another, root for community, root for humanity. That's at least my hope, my vision, my dream, and it's not always there. But if you have the opportunity to have an impact on someone's life in a positive way, and certainly there couldn't be much more of an impact than saving someone's life. And here's where I'm going to tie all these things hopefully together. As we mentioned, it's going to be this weekend where they're celebrating cancer awareness and healthcare appreciation out at Hornet Stadium for that game on Saturday at 6. But for me, as far as our family goes, our son, Jackson, was born with leukemia, which is incredibly rare. He was getting chemotherapy by 2 days old, a day old. It was that soon. We couldn't hold him for a couple of weeks. He was getting chemotherapy. We weren't sure he was going to live. Anyway, we get through that stage where he battles chemo, battles all the different things he had to do, and while battling leukemia. And these blood diseases happen. They happen quite commonly, and people need help. They need assistance. Well, Jackson did quite well with his treatment. He was a battler. He was tough. He makes it through. We're constantly getting doctor's appointments and blood evaluations weekly, to then spread out to monthly, to then every 6 months. And so we're progressing. I never really wanted to hear the word, is in remission, because you're always, when you're born with it, you're just thinking it could come back at any time. Well, it did come back again when he was 7 years old, and we're trying some of the same treatments, chemo, radiation, all these different kind of things. He's not responding as well as he did the first time. And basically we were told for our son to survive, which is very tough to hear, he was going to need to find a bone marrow transplant. So how does that work? How do you find one? It's like, okay, obviously we tested myself, my wife, family members. You hope you find one in your circle, your tight circle, and we didn't. But that doesn't mean you give up there. There are other opportunities. At the time, it was called Be the Match program, but they're now currently called the National Donor Program, NMDP, but they exist. They're out there where people are in a registry and people can find DNA that matches, and you see how close of a match you can be. And what was amazing is we held a couple of different drives, and we, from work and community and friends and family, we found out people who didn't help us per se at that time, but we found out that we found in our group people that matched two other people. One was in Ireland, one was in another part of the United States, and they saved people's lives. All in the meanwhile, we found out that we did find a match, and we were blessed, and we were fortunate. And, my son had to go through his portion of the bone marrow transplant. This donor, who was unnamed and unidentified to us at the time, was going through their part. It saved our son's life. I mean, there's no other way around it. He would not be here today without this incredible program, without the generosity of Charles Nelson, our son's donor, and his family. And so we are forever grateful for them, forever grateful for this ability and science and medicine and all that. But all it took was for this, in this case, Charles, our son's donor, to be in the registry. It is something he did when he was going into the military services, and then years later he finds out he's a match, and he did his part, and our son did our part. And then the best part, the best story I think I can ever tell, besides my son still being here, is the fact that we had to wait a year to meet our donor. He was willing to meet us. We were willing to meet him. My wife and my son and I secretly met them, their family, but we didn't tell our family until it was about a year later, when our son was basically kind of cleared medically, because you're so immune compromised, you kind of got to be isolated from everybody. So we had this big Jackson coming out party, and it was just amazing, just amazing. Family, friends, doctors, nurses, people from all sorts of our community were together, and not everybody's going to know every single person there. My wife and I gave a speech up there thanking everybody for coming, celebrating the big day. And we said, so many of you have asked about the donor. What would you say? What would you do? We had kept telling everybody we had never met them. And all of a sudden we said, he's right over there. And that moment, I will never forget, to see our family so happy, so appreciative. And we had our son. I can never tell the story without getting emotional, but that was truly one of the best days of my life. To see the tears of joy from our friends and family, even doctors and nurses, because we already had met our donor, but they hadn't. And it was our greatest surprise, our greatest gift we could give, besides the one that he gave to us. And it was really, really cool. Just absolutely amazing. So these stories do happen. They exist because of great people that get involved in the NMDP program. And this is something that former Hornet offensive lineman Troy Steifel has done. The Hornets are very, and Andy Thompson and the school, they're very into giving back to the community, be involved, and the Get in the Game program is great. We're going to hear more about that coming up in a few moments, but I first want to catch you up with Troy Steifel, who has been involved in this and has found out that he is a match based through this program and has done his part. So let's catch up with Troy Steifel. All right, now as we continue here on the podcast, this is a fun story I'm glad to be able to share with everybody out there. You probably remember Troy Steifel, former lineman for Sacramento State, and he's doing some great things out there in the community, and I can explain, and it'd probably be better if he explained. Troy joining us right now, kind of in a where are they now? And Troy, I guess we'll start there. Where are you now? What have you been up to since you left the Hornet program and graduated from the school last year?
Hey Jason, I'm glad to be back with you. As of right now, I'm in Nashville, Tennessee.
And so, what brought you to Nashville?
My girlfriend is currently pursuing her PhD at Vanderbilt, so I figured I'd just tag along with her.
Nice. Oh, well, speaking of Vanderbilt, how crazy is that community going after that win over Alabama?
It is truly unbelievable to see, and very much makes me miss the world of college football and being in it. But, it's very cool.
Did they ever find the goalposts? They get those back?
Yeah, I believe they were pulling it out at 3 a.m.
Wow.
On Sunday morning. Yeah, it was just absolute insanity.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, your run as a Hornet was great. You guys did a lot of winning. I'm sure you're still following the program. But while you were here, I know you and others kind of got involved in the Be the Match program. Let's kind of start there. What got you involved? Why was that important to you?
Yeah, they showed up, and I wasn't able to help, but I know that like Coach Thompson and a few of the other of my teammates were kind of doing the thing, trying to just get other Sac State students to sign up. But before that, they kind of gave us the whole rundown on it, and had offered all of us a little swab kit to sign up for it. And I figured, like, I'm already here. It takes, maybe 5 minutes to swab and send it in. Like, it basically couldn't be easier to sign up. So I was like, I might as well just do it. Why not? Figured I'll do it and probably never hear anything back, ever from them. But, at least, I'm just doing this, and, it's a nice thing to at least to just do this and just be available.
Yeah, and then not knowing and kind of thinking, well, maybe this will not have an impact. And I can tell you, as someone that's been on the other side as far as my family, I'll share the story about my son, who was in a spot where that was really the only thing that was going to be able to save his life, was to find a match on the other side. And we were blessed, we were fortunate, and forever grateful. But you're on that side now. You find out that you can help, that you were a match. Kind of take us to that process when you find out you were, and what that all meant kind of going forward.
Yeah, so when I first got the phone call or email, I'm trying to remember which one I first saw. I think it was a phone call. I had to double check and make sure that it was real, because I was so sure when they had come and talked to us, it sounded like this was something that I would probably maybe in 10 or 20 years that I would finally match up with someone. And when I had gotten that call, it had been maybe a year, maybe 10 months since I had signed up. So it just seemed very kind of unbelievable to me that 10 months after signing up, I was that whatever percentage chance it is of being the one person that can do this. So it was definitely a good amount of disbelief at first. But then it was kind of just kind of the thought process of okay, well, I'll just kind of keep on going along. I wasn't sure if I was going to continue to be the best match as I did each test. So yeah, I was just kind of kept going, and I was kind of kept being surprised that they were I kept passing to each next level of it.
Well, that all started with that simple cheek swab where they get some DNA, they find out everything that they need, and you find out you're a match. You pass all these tests, and I mean the impact of finding out, whether the email and all these other tests and phone calls that you get, that you can really impact and save literally someone's life, but the impact that has around that community of people, their family, their friends, their coworkers, whoever it may be. How impactful was that to you to know that, oh my gosh, now I'm in a position where I can actually save someone's life?
I kind of tried to distance myself from that, because I didn't want to be disappointed if I didn't get picked, or I'm still trying my best to not get super invested into that, because I still don't know if my procedure did save the patient that I donated to. They haven't told me yet. So I just kind of want to make sure that that I don't get myself too emotionally invested into this person. But I think just that opportunity to be, that there's even if it's just a chance, I think that's just, hope does so much for, I think, everyone. And I think just knowing that was just, another avenue that a family could explore just means so much. And especially in my personal experience of seeing the other side, Like, I know that having hope and that positivity and optimism really does a lot.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I know, there's certain laws and rules and things like that where I know once we were on the other end and knew that we had the donor and knew that everything was going at least in a positive direction at that point, we would have to wait a full year to meet our donor if, in fact, they wanted to and we wanted to. We definitely did, and we were so pleased and happy to know that they wanted to. If that gets to a point, Troy, where you get to have that opportunity to potentially meet your donor or the recipient, would you want that interaction?
I'm not 100% sure. I think so, but it's definitely something I think I want to think about more first. I would kind of lean towards wanting to be able to meet them.
Yeah. And what's great for us, I can say, is when our son was going through this, we had multiple drives where we were trying to get people signed up and in the registry, in the archives, and so that way they'd have this larger database. And one of the more rewarding things, besides not in that direct thing did we find our donor, but we found other matches that helped other people, and that to me was one of the greatest things that also ever came out about this. So for you and other Hornets that got involved, what would you suggest to anybody that's even remotely thinking about, well, it seems pretty easy just to sign up, do that cheek swab, and get in the registry? What would you tell anybody about that?
Just get it done. It's so easy, and, the worst that can happen is you never hear back, and your life goes completely untouched by doing a 5-minute cheek swab, or not even 5 minutes, but, a whole 5-minute process. And then you never hear anything. And that is, about the worst case scenario out of all of this.
Yeah, and I'm glad that it's meant something to the Hornet program, to those in this community. This weekend, by the way, for the home opener in the Big Sky, the Hornets are playing Eastern Washington, but it's also celebrating cancer awareness and healthcare appreciation. So we encourage everybody out there to do that, to take the time to think about getting in the registry. Troy, I commend you on, certainly it was great to know you when you were here as a Hornet, getting your work done and all the great things you did as a Sacramento State Hornet, but this could be one of your greatest plays you've ever made, honestly, and that's awesome. I really appreciate that. Good catching up with you, and hopefully you enjoy more Vanderbilt football. That was pretty incredible what happened last weekend, but it was great to catch up with you and wish you nothing but success in the future.
Thank you so much, Jason.
Well, you heard from Troy to see the impact he knows he's made, how thankful he is. I mean, it's a little bit of a surreal experience. I can tell you from being on the other side, on the recipient side for our family, how much of an impact it has. And someone else who knows a lot about this is Emmanuel Lopez, and Emmanuel is with NMDP, the National Marrow Donor Program, has worked with them, and he himself has a family story with his mom. He knows the impact of this, and it's great. It's great to see people rallying behind a cause, rallying behind one another, and giving back and helping. And look, we need people to be involved. So I caught up with Emmanuel, who knows who's going to be out at the game in the group of NMDP on Saturday. But here was my chat with Emmanuel Lopez. All right, let's get even a little bit more information. We were talking about this with former Hornet Troy Steifel, but now we're joined by Emmanuel Lopez, an account manager for Northern California's region that's really covering everything here from NMDP, the National Marrow Donor Program. Emmanuel, thank you for joining us, and really thank you for what you do, for what your program does, for what Troy has done. I've shared what it's meant to me and my family, and you guys are heroes in my mind. I know the people that end up registering and help and donate and all that become the real heroes too, but I really appreciate the work you're doing, and thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you for having me, Jason, and honored to be here, and I appreciate you giving me the platform to discuss our mission here at NMDP and try to help save as many lives as we can here, specifically in the Sacramento region.
Yeah, and it's amazingly easy just to get started. Troy kind of already talked about it, but really it's just getting in the registry, just getting started, just that cheek swab that goes a long way. You can kind of talk a little bit about the process and what that eventually does for you guys when you get, all different types of people from 18 to 40 in your database, because that just opens up a whole new area of people that can eventually be matches.
Yeah, so it's very easy. Like you said, it's a 10-second cheek swab. What that does is allows us and searching patients, doctors, to be able to find potential matches for these searching patients. It's very different than with a blood type. So when we talk about stem cell and bone marrow transplants, people think that you have to have the same blood type, but like you said, it's the same ethnicity. So our job here specifically for me is to diversify the registry. And Sacramento being the second most diverse city in the United States, we have a really great opportunity to make a huge impact for a lot of searching patients, not only here in the Sacramento region, but nationwide.
Yeah, and right now, I mean, we have, like, as we speak, we have people searching right here in Sacramento. Not that you can't help in other areas, but currently in our city, in our area, we have people searching right now, right?
Correct, yeah. And we have, I'm currently working with a 14-year-old soccer player. He is a refugee from Afghanistan, and these are specific cases that really hit my heart is people who don't necessarily have the resources or the reach to go out into their own community and try to find donors. And so that's my job, is to be their voice and be their advocate, and working with people like yourself, Jason, to be able to speak on the mountaintop and let them know, hey, we do have searching patients right here in our backyard.
Well, NMDP has also found a nice lane, I think, Emmanuel, of getting to college students, college athletes. There's so many of them. They're healthy. They're vibrant. They're in that time of life where they're at the perfect sweet spot. But what does the Get in the Game program mean, and how influential has that been for you guys?
Yeah, it is one of our rocks when it comes to getting our registry to be more diversified. We work with a lot of college campuses, UCLA, University of Washington, and then also Sacramento State, where we were able to get Troy and Jace, a local rugby player, to help donate. And so what we do is we actually have these student athletes go out and advocate for our mission. It's a lot easier for these student athletes to put on a jersey and go out to campuses and spread our mission because they look just like the student body that they're representing. And so it's a lot easier for them than it is for me, a 35-year-old man, to go onto campus and be able to ask people to join a registry. These are people that a lot of the student body look up to when they are on the field, and it makes it a lot easier for them to stop and really listen to what we're spreading when it comes to the mission.
Well, what's pretty cool, and I was sharing this earlier, that what it meant so much to me, obviously we were very blessed to find a match for our son, and things are going great with him, but we also held our own kind of drives and different people in the community, and we got a bunch of people registered, and one of the biggest rewards was of our group that I know of, and maybe more has changed since then, but right away we found out in that searching for us, we found out that 2 people were matches for other people elsewhere. One was in Ireland, one was in the U.S., and that was almost it was incredibly rewarding to find out that helped someone else. And I know these are the kind of stories like we heard from Troy, and you mentioned Jace with the rugby program. I mean, these things, truly people are saving lives, and it all starts simply with that cheek swab to see if you can qualify. And it's so incredibly rewarding, and for you, it's got to be great to see it kind of from all sides.
Yeah, and the great thing about our program as well is we want to make it as easy as possible for people to donate. Not only do we want to make sure that it's an easy 10-second cheek swab for them to join the registry, but when they do match with a searching patient, us as an organization, we make it as easy as possible for these donors to say yes. So what we do is we take care of any of the travel. So, for example, if somebody needs to go to the East Coast or down south, what we do is we take care of all the logistics, hotel, flight. If you have a dog, we take care of the pet sitting. We'll also cover any expenses if you missed any sort of lost wages. So if you have to take time off of work, say a lot of these college kids, they graduate and say they match, 2 years later and they're working their job. We want to make sure that we make it as easy as possible for people to say yes. They're able to bring a friend with them. And I know a lot of people say, for example, if they go to the East Coast, I had somebody who was in Washington, D.C., they ended up donating it and then ended up making a little bit of a vacation out of it and going to see the Washington monuments and everything like that. So us as an organization, we want to make it as easy as possible for people to say yes. because we don't want to give these patients false hope if they do match with somebody and they do say no because of, costs for travel or anything like that. So we make it as easy as possible for people to say yes.
Yeah, in this situation where people might need these matches for, blood diseases and certain things that are going on in health-related, causes here. And what's so great, Emmanuel, is, this week Sacramento State is celebrating Cancer Awareness Night, also Healthcare Appreciation. So it all kind of ties in to trying to work with one another, work in our community. And for those that, are interested or haven't been involved in the Get in the Game program or whatever else may be, how can they find out more information and maybe get themselves in the registry?
No, great question. So we will be tabling at Sac State at the football game this weekend on the 12th. So come by, stop by. We'll be having some giveaways. We'll have representatives from our organization to explain any more details about what we do and how we do it. But if you are interested in whether it's volunteering or you want to join the registry, you can go to nmdp.org. That's nmdp.org, and you can learn more about not only how to register, but how to get involved and see, how you can really make an impact. If you are, over 40, there is other ways that you can help save lives. We want to make sure that even if you aren't in that age range, that you can still make an impact in helping save lives.
Yeah, the work you guys have done, and I know my family, we're forever grateful. At that time, it was Be the Match. Now you guys are NMDP. Same group, same policies, same ideas. Yep. Saving lives is what you're doing. So thank you for what you're doing, what everybody's done before, and will continue to do. For those that get in the registry, we encourage you to do so. And we really appreciate your time, and I continue to wish you guys the best. And finding matches and saving lives, it's amazing stuff. Thank you, Emmanuel.
Of course, Jason. Thank you again for having me.
Well, I told you it was going to be a little bit of a different podcast, but I think it's important to get this word out there. Again, ages 18 to 40. If you can get in that registry, I am telling you the impact you can make. I don't even know how to measure it, but I'm forever grateful, so blessed, and so thankful for people like Emmanuel, like Troy, like the great people that was once to Be the Match program. Now it's National Marrow Donor Program. Charles Nelson, his family. We're forever in debt, and I always wanted to be a match myself. But you got to find ways to give back to one another, to take care of one another, and to give people those moments that will live for them forever. I mean, the little things that happen to our son's blood type change, it's just crazy. Crazy stories that happen out of all this. And again, we are forever, forever grateful. Also excited to have football back at home Saturday, Eastern Washington. Let's tell you a little bit about the Eagles before we wrap this up. They are 1-4. They won their first game. They've lost their last 4. Let's throw the record out. I mean, look, the Hornets are 2-3. They've still got a goal of getting to the postseason. They're still in the top 20, but they got to get cooking. They got to find a way here where they start playing their best football. They were not great 2 weeks ago against Northern Arizona. So what do they have to do here? NAU blitzed and brought guys from every different angle. I'm sure Eastern Washington has watched that film. Their defense has not been as strong as I would say their offense has been. If you look at teams they played, their first win was against Monmouth. They lost to Drake, Southeastern Louisiana, Nevada, and then Montana. And that Montana game could have gone either way. They also have coming off a bye week. They do run multiple quarterbacks. That's something to watch. And their best player is their wide receiver, Eftim Chisholm. The Hornets are going to have to find a way to really slow him down. But the defense has been giving up some yards and some points. If the Hornets can, tighten some things up from that offensive line and blitz packages and kind of get in their groove and take advantage of being good at home, let's hope they can get right back on track, even their record in the Big Sky and even their record overall. All right, that's it for us this week. Thank you so much. We took a little bit of a different turn, but I think you could tell by the emotions of it and the importance of this that I think it was a message that certainly needed to be heard. My thanks to Troy Steifel, to Gavin Davis Smith, to Emmanuel Lopez, and to all of you out there. Make sure you get out to the game this weekend. Get in that registry if you fit in that age group, or people certainly that healthy, vibrant 18 to 40 group of all sorts of diverse backgrounds and ethnicities. That's all important. So get in that registry if you can, and you'll be amazed at the impact that it could have. You don't know if you'll ever be called, but if you can, think about that. Truly saving a life is quite memorable. That's for sure. That's it for us. I'm Jason Ross. Thanks so much for listening. We're back again next week for another edition of the Stingers Up Sacramento State Football Podcast. See ya.